pretty.
Yeah, it's nice. No? We can start like this. You got a special point of view to read the reality of this moment. The point of view, let's say, of the energy. How can we explain what is the energy?
Right.
It's
A small question. This is a small question. How to define the energy in itself? Yeah. Well, the most simplest explanation, and the one that that I go, this is my experience, because people think that I'm doing some huge thing. The huge thing is really basically this: is we already know. We can see this everywhere in the world, that life looks after life. It's actually the natural state. It's looking after itself. Like you go into a forest or something, everything is in a harmony of itself, and it happens by itself. So the energy, the way I work with energy is on that same principle. It's like I tune into the natural energy flow that's here, and with a clear intention. And I think that's really one of the most important things, is the clarity of intention, or the not interference of other intentions. That you can often see that in even conversations with people. Having a clear conversation is sometimes difficult. So on an energetic level, it's the same thing. So it's having that clear relationship with the natural energy source, and opening to that, and using that with people in the body. Now, there's a lot of research done on this, and on the memory that's held in the body. So if we move from energy to, because I basically work with bodies, with the human physical system. One of the things that really interests me about it is, and there's a lot of work you can see on this these days, is the ability for water to hold memory. And the ability for the memories, the memory of the water to be changed with intention, positive or negative. So that's basically something that I discovered in myself, and then I started to see that a very clear energy field can clear the memory of the fluids of the body. And the fluids of the body are just a form of energy. Everything physical or not physical is energy. So that's how I understand the work, in a sense. And then there's levels of fluid in the body, of course. We've got fluids in the tissue. We've got lymph. We've got blood. And then deeper in the body, we've got bone marrow, and the whole brain stem, and the spinal fluids. So there's a lot, all water-based. So from a practitioner level, that's basically what I'm working with. But that requires that I have quite a clear space in myself, and I open to this natural field, which will naturally correct itself. It's like water is a very interesting thing to watch and study. It goes its own path, and it finds its own way. And the energy field of, say, fire. See, it's the interaction between fire, you could say the sun, and the water element of the body, which is what manifests all life, on the planet that we live in. It's basically an interaction between fire or sunlight. The element of fire is in Chinese medicine, and water are the two biggest things that are interacting. So I work with that, opening to you could say the fire energy, the energy of more the invisible light energy that comes from the sun or wherever, and working with that intentionally with the human body and the water. A simple way of saying it is the water stagnations in the body, or the fluid stagnations. So by doing that and opening to the natural state, because there's a natural state of clarity that the body is naturally will naturally go by itself if it's allowed to. What we're doing often is avoiding that, or we're increasing stagnation by, whatever, lifestyles, food. There's a huge list. So that's a little brief story about that, yeah. And of course, there's many avenues to go from here with that, yeah.
Many people now are aware that something of big is changing the planet.
Certainly.
So with this perspective, can you understand what's changing in the planet in this moment?
Yeah, well, that's another good question. Just another very simple question. What's happening with humanity at the moment? Yeah. This is a question for God, whoever that is. Listen, simply from my own experience, I can because working with people for a long time, and also working with myself and with energy, it's the same as anything. You're going to see changes, changes in the say the quickness or the results. Now, if I went back, say 20 years ago, when people were trying to work through, like stronger issues in their life, and how difficult it was, and say the psychic walls, what it was like, say 20 years ago, which I have a very clear memory of, and I worked with it. It was like often trying to, I've explained this to other people, I've said it in these words before, it was like trying to work through psychic brick walls, and sometimes it was really difficult. That, and we could say that that's a level of the vibration of the time. And so there was a lot of changes that started to, been happening forever, I imagine. But in this last 20 or 30 or 40 years, we're in a process of, you look back 30 or 40 years, we can see there's some progression going on. Me working with energy, I can see it really clearly, because what I see is, the changes that are going on. Each year, I'm totally surprised by how quickly people can change their behaviours, their health, their attitudes, and that's expanding like. This is like 2008. This seems to be getting quicker. So that's what I don't know what that is. There's plenty of theories I've researched it. I've looked at things. There's plenty of ideas around that. But my main experience of it is I see people transform much quicker now and much easier if they're willing. And energy seems to be finer, and the opportunity to become freer in spirit seems easier than it was. And it not only seems easier, like my experience is, it's easier. So. See, when I look at and I, we can see politically things seem to be different. They seem to be the opposite. They seem to be more oppressive. So that's the like what in English the dichotomy of it. We have the political repression that seems to be getting stronger, and the control issues, and then at the same time there's a consciousness that seems to be freeing itself up all over the planet, and that's obvious in a lot of things. Like 15 years ago, when I was, say if I go back to when it was more dense and difficult to do things, our communication level since then has increased globally. And if you look 15 years ago, we didn't have the internet. So our whole, this whole, whatever it is, getting to know itself has got more refined, and I can see that in people I work with, because it's affected us all, and now they can change much quicker. And at the same time, we seem to be having something that wants to really keep it under control and hold it down. So, that's what I see energetically in the world, as in people.
And are the people ready to accept this changing?
Mm-hmm.
The people called mainstream people.
The affecting of the mainstream people, like, if you're from an alternative background like myself, it's like I'll tell you, this is what's happened this year, which has totally surprised a lot of people, right? Is like Oprah, in America, and she's got a huge influence on mainstream people who want to watch television in the afternoons, yeah. She has been doing like podcasts and live television broadcasts with this sort of stuff, the power of the now, being in here, having a clear mind, using your mind with clear intention, all of this, And in March this year, she had 500,000 subscribers. Last time I heard, which is only 2 months ago, there's 11 million. So it's not what the mainstream, they don't need to look for it. It's actually here, and it's getting presented to them. It's coming out. It's like a hamburger with too much sauce. You squash it, and it's all coming out the sides. And that's actually what's happening. That's what's happening. It's becoming mainstream. So that's how I see what's going on. So the so-called mainstream people, they have a lot of concerns too, but most of them are just struggling to just keep their life together, keep their finances together. The West is the West and the third world. We're all in that in a different way. Whether we're from the third world, where a lot of the third world people would probably be more comfortable with some of the changes, the West find it really difficult. You turn the television off for a week and see what happens.
What do you think? How long is this period? Can be this period of changing?
Another simple question. Yeah. Well, I've got an answer for that. Don't worry. Because these are all questions that I've thought about, of course, and explored. And one of the things, again, in my, like you say, can we see the result in our lifetime? That's an individual question. It's not it may not look like some pretty picture outside. I don't know what's going on with that. I do know something though that I've experienced, and I continually experience, and how I would answer the question of how will you know, right? And this is it's something like people say, I've asked this sort of question with me before. My experience is that as we incarnate more into the body, which is a continual lifetime process, we become more of who we are. And the incarnation is not just when we're born. It's continual until we die. That's more a natural process. And my experience is, as over the years, as I feel like I'm actually, sometimes I go from one day to the next going, amazing the change from yesterday to today. And I feel like there's more of whatever this is incarnated and present here. And that process, if you like, for me, will continue until the body dies.
We are discovering the hidden part of the history, let's say. But the question is, do we want to know?
I think people do want to know the truth, but a lot of people don't want to take the responsibility of what that means. The responsibility is a bigger issue for people. If they can see what's going on and go, it's them, and I'm not involved, which is actually a total crazy way of being, because we're all involved with everything. We're involved with the oil industry every time we buy petrol or ride in a car, or we're totally involved with the whole thing. And the do we want to know is like, people don't want to know that they're involved. That's what they don't want to know.